Namaste. My name is Ashima Sarin, and I'm the author of 108 Blessings, Alchemy for the Mind, Body, and Soul. When we say Namaste, we are saying that the divine in me is honoring the divine in you.
Welcome to Women Now TV, and I have a very special guest with me today, Ashima Sarin. She and I, we've been talking a little bit, in the back room, mom to mom, working women to working women, but I'd love to share her story with you. So Ashima, welcome.
Thank you.
And let's start with, I know our main agenda today is, of course, to talk about your book, 108 Blessings. So tell me a little bit about you before we really delve into your book and why you're here.
Thank you, Nidhi. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here. And it's interesting, before the camera started rolling, you were talking about being moms, and after you had your 2 kids and I had my 2 kids, I really felt the need to do something for myself. I had a full-time job, I had a great life, but I felt this restlessness spiritually and emotionally, and really started deep mind and body work, which was kundalini yoga practice and medical Qigong as well. I started meditating, I started reading the great spiritual works from every philosophy. And that self-work really became my journey into this book. I was influenced by the number 108 years ago when my son, who used to be very sick all the time, I would sit by his bedside and chant Om Mani Padme Hum with the Jap Mala, which is 108 beads. And when the work sort of started showing itself in my life, and my life started changing and transforming, it felt natural to share this wisdom and the love and the gratitude with the world in the form of 108 blessings.
Okay, so now you mentioned the mala, and I, to me, that I haven't seen it in a long time, but my grandma, who passed away several years ago, used to use that, right? And there's a specific reason why there are 108 beads. And my understanding is that even rubbing it against your skin has like some medicinal value. So there is scientific research. But tell me why 108, the purpose of that book, and if I understand, your journey to writing started very early as a young girl.
So I wrote my first poem at the age of 8, and I couldn't stop writing. Writing was the way I made sense of the world. That's how I processed. I was writing for newspapers by the time I was 19, but I wanted something deeper. I wanted to impact the world in a bigger way. And at that time, I didn't know what that would be. I knew it involved writing. So I came here for a master's, and for years I got involved in the corporate world and just taking care of my kids. But then my creative process got blocked. And when that did, it created a sense of restlessness. And so I started a blog about 5 years ago, and just couldn't stop writing after that. And once it started flowing, I was writing prolifically on social media, and so many friends and family said, you've got to get your book out.
So what is your blog called? What do you write about? Why do you write about that particular subject? And then I think I'd like to spend some time very specifically on what is in this book.
I write about anything and everything. I write about subjects that are very irreverent, and then I write about things that are very deep. I think poetry softens the world. It softens the edges of a very harsh world. And so that's how I make sense of the world. So I do a lot of poetry, but lately it's been a lot of introspective posts. It's about me being a mom. It's about me being a full-time career woman. I have an ailing dad, so it's also about me being a daughter. And then beyond those identities, what am I as a woman? And so what this book does is this book takes all of these facets of human experience and covers them. Each blessing is unique, but together it creates an evolutionary bridge into what I call our higher self. So if you look at what is a blessing, blessing is how you infuse your intention with divine will. And blessing is how the sacred in me meets the sacred in you. So it's my best intention for you, but it's deeper. It's things that are already in your soul that are waiting for you to heal so they can come out into the world. And that's this book.
So from a blog to this book, what was the need, or what was the reason behind getting this book out? I mean, I know you've talked about a lot of different things, but I'd like to hear from you. Why did you think a book was now necessary, and the purpose, what you hope to do for others with this?
So I see my purpose as a healer. but I also see that that healing is going to come through words. I do practice energy medicine as well, and I do some distance healing and some in-person healing. But a book is how I can reach hundreds or thousands of people with these messages. And a blog covers the many different topics, but a book is how it all comes together.
Now, I took a quick peek at it, but you know, there is this, the book is, I mean, each chapter is very succinct.
Yes.
It's quick to read.
Yes.
But if you have a favorite particular page, or I think I found one. So if you want to do a little reading and then tell us a little bit the story behind the story.
We're talking about blessing number 63, which is may you defend your self-worth. I think about self-worth a lot because I think as women, sometimes it is a lot of work to understand what that self-worth is, and it gets very lost in the noise of the world, in the many responsibilities we have. And once we find that self-worth through working, through finding ourselves, to finding what is that fulfills our many needs, then how do you defend that self-worth from negativity, from the cultural constraints, from criticism of the world, from the many things that bog it down? So I'd love to read the blessing.
Sure.
Self-worth doesn't come easily. It's a lifetime of work, of defending it from a barrage of invaders, the negative voices that live both outside and within. But if we don't consider ourselves worthy, nobody else will. Not only do we have to find out what it means to feel worthy of all we think we deserve, we must nurture it, nourish it, create a space for it to thrive, and be an inspiration for others to awaken their own self-worth. It's a tall task, but perhaps one of the most important ones we will ever undertake. Accepting it will elevate us to the full measure of our potential and set an example for how we want to be treated by the world.
Oh, it's lovely. And I think this is one that, you know, everyone should put it on their mirror.
I believe we are all goddesses. But first we have to recognize and see the goddess within and awaken that goddess within, and then protect that goddess.
Right, absolutely. So in terms of where can our viewers find this book? Is this in private stores or small bookstores? How does one get to it?
I launched it late last year, and yes, I launched the book late last year, and right now it's available in paperback and Kindle version on Amazon.
On Amazon?
Yes.
Okay.
I would also love to say that this book, the way this book I think could be included in your life is for you to take one blessing at a time and really sit with it. Much like you hold a bead in your hand of the Jap Mala, read a blessing, maybe start your day with it with a meditation practice. Maybe read it to your kids at night. I have friends who read it with their children. I have yoga teachers who start their yoga classes with a blessing. I also know of readers who open their corporate meetings with a blessing as well. Right,
so it's about mindfulness, a constant state of being grateful for what you have, and reminder of things. So this is really, you know, I think this is fantastic, and a lot of things that are, you know, when I took a quick look at it, it's things that you know, right?
Absolutely.
You know, you know it, but you need these reminders and self-awareness. So if you had to tell our viewers one or two things, what would be your advice to maybe someone who's maybe having a great day and someone who maybe not? You know, from what your journey, what would your one or two bit of advice would be? That's
a great question. This life is a gift, and we have to see it as a gift. We have to live many lives in one. How we can do that is by staying present, by taking care of our own joy and well-being. And by doing that, we can take care of everything else in our life beautifully. So you and I, you know, we talked a little bit. We both work in the corporate world.
Yes.
We have children.
Yes.
And we've you got to this book after you had your second one. So the Bay Area, the hustle and bustle of every day, right? And yet to find that place within you. Tell me, what do you think? What is your takeaway or your sharing of wisdom as to how do you manage all of that? Because you got to this book, having kids and work. It's possible.
Yes.
Right. But how do you get there?
I think I manage it by
taking care of myself first. I start my day, and I have a busy life. I start my day at 5:30 in the morning. Some days when I can sleep in at 6 a.m. But I started with a yoga or a Qigong practice. If I'm in my bus that takes me to my job, I am listening to a meditation. I'm trying to do deep breathing through the day. If I'm with my kids and I've had a difficult day with them, I sit at night and think about what I could do better the next day. So I think that self-work and mind-body practice cannot just be isolated. It has to be done all day. Our lives are so full, but I think that's the gift we have. That having a full life is how we can have structure to do many more things. I always say that I couldn't have written this book if I wasn't working. It's because I know how much time I have, and at the end of the day, I have an hour to write, and that's all the time I have. I also think that having a supportive family, which in the Bay Area, we have a lot of couples who are very supportive of each other. Husband and wives are working. My husband really makes sure that he can take care of the kids while I'm taking my quiet time. Is very important. My kids were actually very encouraging and wanted me to write and get this book out in the world. I also think that we need mini sanctuaries. The mini sanctuary could be taking a few minutes to just sip your cup of tea. Don't multitask.
Right.
Put your phone away in another room. I believe in the concept of energy leakage. By thinking about something else that's not tied to a purpose, we are giving away our energy. So knowing what that purpose is first and foremost, and then feeding that purpose, keeping that energy into yourself and into what your priorities are. So in the Bay Area, you need to do ruthless prioritizing, which also means that if I have an hour with a girlfriend, I have that hour with her.
Right.
I'm going to put my phone away and just listen to her. If I have an hour with my kids, I'm just present with my kids. And at work, I have to make sure that's all I'm doing.
Right. No, I agree. I think multitasking is a myth.
Yes.
And
Absolutely.
Really, whatever you're doing, do that.
Do it.
Be
fully.
in that moment. Do it fully. Do it your best.
Yes.
But in spite of that, I'm guilty of it as well. And I sometimes hear my friends say it about, well, I just don't have the time.
Yes.
Right. So I think it's a practice.
Yes.
It's a discipline.
Yes.
But what is it that has worked for you? Because it does not happen overnight.
No, I think what's worked for me is I became a morning person.
Okay.
I was not a morning person, and I fell in love with mornings. And if I start my day with a short practice, even if it's just 10 minutes, I am set beautifully for the rest of the day. And so finding that time again, I end up, instead of meetings, I sometimes do a walk and talk with my colleagues.
Okay.
As well. Eating right, working out, and then it's interesting that you said the word guilt. I think as women, and especially as Indian women, we use the word guilt a lot. It's something that was passed down. So when we take time for ourselves, we feel guilty.
Yeah, you've got to be the mother, and you've got to be the wife, and you've got to have the meal on the table.
And it's sometimes, if that involves telling your kids when they're giving you a hard time while you're away from them and saying, this is what mommy needs for herself.
Right.
I have absolutely no guilt when I leave my kids for a few days and go on a retreat. In fact, years ago, before my first retreat, I was really in doubt if I should leave the kids and go for 5 days. And my husband said, please find your happiness, because if you're happy, we will all be happy.
Right.
As well.
I agree. I think if mom is happy, everyone else around you is happy as well. And
That's
I think
exactly.
Yes, overcoming that guilt.
Yes.
That's a big hurdle.
That's the biggest hurdle.
I've gone through it, and now it's, but yes, you have to accept it.
That's exactly.
Yourself, and you say, well, I don't have to do it all, right? There are many ways.
And it's okay for the house to be messy. A house messy is a house that's well lived. And do not strive for perfection. We are human, so accepting the humanity and divinity is equally important. We're both equal parts human and divine.
Well, Ashima, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure meeting you, and I hope our viewers, you've enjoyed the conversation, and make sure to grab yourself a copy and go onto Amazon and share your thoughts with us. Go onto Women Now page and take some time for yourself.